My mother excluded me from her wedding because I look like my dad. She canceled my 18th birthday to go on honeymoon with her boyfriend. But when my brother found out what he did, left them speechless, and they never expected the consequences. I'm 18 years old. I live with my dad now. And what happened a few months ago basically destroyed whatever relationship I could have had with my mom. The truth is, I don't know if we ever had a real relationship, but I guess I always held on to hope that things could get better. You know? That part of you that wants to believe your mom loves you even though all the signs say otherwise. Turns out I was completely wrong. And the way everything blew up was so devastating that there are still days when I can't fully process it. I should start from the beginning, so this makes sense. My parents got divorced when I was like 6 years old. I don't remember much about it except that suddenly my mom left and I stayed living mainly with my dad. I have 3 younger brothers. Dylan is 16, Caleb is 14, and there's another younger brother too. And we all lived in this kind of weird arrangement where we'd spend time between both houses. But basically, my mom was always more focused on remaking her life than on being a mom. You know what I mean? Like, I always felt that I was a reminder of her old life, of my dad, of things she wanted to forget. About 2 years ago, my mom met Kevin. And from the start, I knew there was something off about that guy. I don't know. He had that controlling energy. You know, one of those people who smile, but you can see they're evaluating everything all the time, judging. At first, I tried to give him a chance because I thought, well, if my mom is happy, then great. But the thing is that the more time Kevin spent with us, the more I noticed he treated me differently than my brothers. Like, he'd talk to them normally, but with me, there was always this tension. And my mom never said anything about it. She just acted like I was imagining things. What I didn't know at the time, and what I found out in the worst possible way, is that Kevin basically hated me because I look like my dad. Yeah, you read that right. He hated me for my genes. For my face. For things I literally can't control. And my mom, instead of defending me or telling him he was being ridiculous, decided it was easier to just exclude me from her life. But I'm not getting ahead of myself. Let me tell you how I found out about all this. So like 8 months ago, I was at my mom's house one weekend and I heard her talking on the phone about plans for a wedding. I got a little excited. Honestly, because I thought I was finally going to be part of something important in her life. You know, that maybe this would be an opportunity for us to reconnect or whatever. She'd apparently been planning this wedding for months, and I didn't even know Kevin had proposed until that day. That should have told me something about where I stood in her priorities, but I guess I was still in denial mode. A few weeks went by, and I started asking her casual things about the wedding. Like, what color are the decorations going to be? Do you have the venue yet? When is it exactly? And she'd always change the subject or give me super vague answers, and I thought maybe she was stressed about the planning and that's why she was being weird. One day, I think it was like in March or maybe April, I don't remember exactly. I was helping her fold laundry in the living room, and I asked if she needed help with anything for the wedding, like offering to do whatever, and she went quiet for a really uncomfortable moment. Then she looked at me and said, "Hannah, I need to talk to you about something." And I immediately felt my stomach tighten, because her tone of voice was that tone adults use when they're going to tell you something they know is going to hurt. She sat on the couch and told me the wedding was going to be a small, intimate ceremony, and that Kevin felt uncomfortable with the idea of me being there because, and I quote, "You look too much like your father and it makes him feel weird." I sat there processing those words, literally unable to believe what I was hearing. "Are you telling me I can't go to your wedding because your boyfriend doesn't like my face?" I asked her, and she just said she hoped I would understand, that it wasn't anything personal against me, but she wanted her special day to be perfect and without tensions. It wasn't anything personal. As if excluding your only daughter from your wedding because your boyfriend has issues with your ex-husband wasn't literally the definition of something personal. I tried to stay calm and told her that seemed super unfair to me, that I hadn't done anything wrong and couldn't control who I look like, and she just kept repeating that she hoped I would understand. That when I was older, I'd see that sometimes you have to make sacrifices for love. And I was thinking, sacrifices? Your daughter is a sacrifice? But I couldn't even speak properly, because I felt like someone had kicked me in the chest. Things got worse, because turns out my 18th birthday was literally the day after the wedding. I mean, she knew this. Obviously. She gave birth to me. She's my mom. And when I asked her if we could at least do something for my birthday, even if it was after she got back from her honeymoon or whatever, She told me they'd planned to go on their honeymoon for 2 weeks immediately after the wedding, and she wouldn't be able to do anything for my birthday this year. Like, she canceled my 18th birthday, which is an important birthday, right? To go on vacation with a guy who doesn't even want me to exist in his field of vision. I left her house that day and didn't talk to her for like a week. My brothers kept going back and forth between houses, and I stayed with my dad, who, by the way, was furious when I told him what had happened. My dad has always been the type of person who tries to keep the peace and not talk badly about my mom in front of us. But that day I saw something in his face I'd never seen before, like a mixture of rage and sadness. And he told me what my mom was doing was unforgivable and that I didn't have to tolerate that kind of treatment from anyone, not even her. Dylan, my 6-year-old brother, was the first to find out about the whole situation because he overheard me talking to my dad about it. He came to my room that night and asked me if it was true that Mom hadn't invited me to the wedding, and when I said yes, I could see he was genuinely angry. Dylan has always been the brother who understands me most. You know? Like we have that special connection. And he told me that if I wasn't going to the wedding, then he wasn't going either. I told him he didn't have to do that I didn't want to cause more problems, but he said it wasn't causing problems, it was doing the right thing, and that Mom needed to understand that her actions had consequences. I tried to give my mom some space, thinking maybe she'd realize how horrible she'd been and come apologize, but instead, like 2 weeks later, she sent me a message asking if I could come to the house to pick up some things I'd left there. I went, and when I got there, she was there with Kevin. And I decided I needed to tell her exactly how I felt because, you know what? I had nothing left to lose. I told her I'd been thinking a lot about our relationship, or the lack of it, and that I'd realized she'd never really tried to get to know me or connect with me. That she'd always treated me like an obligation more than a daughter, and that excluding me from her wedding only confirmed what I'd suspected my whole life, that she didn't want me there, that I was an inconvenience. I expected her to tell me I was exaggerating or misinterpreting everything. But instead, she got defensive and started saying I was ungrateful, that she'd done so much for me, that I didn't understand how hard it had been for her. Kevin got involved in the conversation, which he never should have done, and told me to stop being dramatic and to respect my mom's decisions. Something in me broke in that moment, and I told him he wasn't my dad and he had no right to talk to me like that. And then he told me to get out of his house. His house. As if my mom didn't live there too. As if he'd already established that I wasn't welcome. My mom didn't say anything. Just stood there, while Kevin basically kicked me out. And that, more than anything else, showed me everything I needed to know. I called my dad crying from the parking lot, and he came to pick me up immediately. That night, I packed all my stuff from my mom's house. My dad helped me, and I officially moved in full-time with him. My brothers kept going to Mom's house on their scheduled weekends, and every time they came back, they'd tell me how Mom was acting like nothing had happened, like I'd simply decided to stop visiting her on a whim. The thing is that when my other brothers found out all the details, all of them, including Caleb, who's normally the peacemaker in the family, said they didn't want to go to the wedding. My mom went into total panic mode when all three told her they weren't going to attend, and instead of reflecting on why her own children were rejecting her, she decided it was all my fault. She called me. First time she'd talked to me directly in weeks, and yelled at me that I'd turned her children against her, that I was ruining the most important day of her life, that I was manipulative. I told her I hadn't asked my brothers not to go, that they'd made that decision on their own because they could see how badly she'd treated me, but she didn't want to hear any of it. She said that if I really loved her, I'd convince my brothers to go to the wedding, and I told her that if she really loved me, she wouldn't have excluded me in the first place. She hung up the phone after that. Dylan was the most vocal about his decision not to go. I remember like a week before the wedding, my mom tried to talk to him again, like making this last desperate effort, and he told her something that still makes me want to cry when I remember it. He told her, "Mom, you've spent years making Hannah feel like she doesn't matter, like she's less important than your new life, like her existence is a problem. And now you're surprised that I don't want to be at a celebration that basically says she's not part of this family. I'm not going. And it has nothing to do with Hannah manipulating me. It has to do with me finally realizing the pattern of how you treat people when they no longer serve you." That hurt my mom, I think, because Dylan is her favorite child. Always has been. And hearing that from him specifically was probably a hard blow. But instead of using that as a moment to reflect, it just made her angrier. She tried to bribe my brothers, like offering them things if they went to the wedding, which was super pathetic, honestly, but none of them gave in. Like 2 weeks before the wedding, my mom showed up at my dad's house. I was in my room doing homework when I heard the doorbell and then voices downstairs. And when I went down, she was there in the living room talking to my dad. She saw me and her expression softened a bit, and she said she wanted to talk to me. My dad asked me if I was okay with that, and I said yes, though honestly I didn't know what to expect. We sat at the kitchen table and she started with this speech about how maybe she'd handled things badly, that it hadn't been her intention to hurt me, that she hoped we could find a way to fix this. It sounded good, right? Except she never said she regretted not inviting me to the wedding, never said Kevin was wrong, never really apologized for anything specific. It was just this superficial attempt to make peace without actually admitting she'd done anything wrong. I asked her directly if she was inviting me to the wedding, and she went quiet for a moment before saying the wedding was already planned a certain way and changing things last minute would be complicated, but that after the wedding, we could work on rebuilding our relationship. I told her I didn't understand how she expected us to have a relationship when she didn't even want me at one of the most important days of her life. And she just said I was being difficult, and that someday I'd understand. She left after that, and that was the last time she tried to talk to me before the wedding. What I didn't expect is that Kevin would message me like 3 days before the wedding. Like, he had the audacity to send me this long message telling me I was being selfish, that I was ruining my mom's special day, and that if I really loved her, I'd stop causing drama and apologize to her. He was telling me I needed to grow up and accept that sometimes life isn't about me, and that my brothers were being influenced by my negative attitude. Basically, he was blaming me for the whole mess of the situation, as if I'd created this problem by existing. I blocked him immediately. I didn't respond to him at all because, what could I tell him? There's no point in reasoning with someone who fundamentally doesn't see you as a human being who deserves respect. My dad said. Kevin was showing his true nature and that it was good. All this had come out now instead of later, when my mom was already married to him and it would be harder for her to get out of that relationship if things got worse. Literally the week of the wedding, my mom tried another tactic. She sent a message to my dad inviting him to the wedding. Yeah, the man she divorced, the man whose face is apparently so offensive that his daughter can't be at the ceremony, she invited him to the wedding. My dad told me, and we both laughed because it was so absurd we couldn't do anything else. Obviously, he didn't go, and he told her he wasn't going to participate in any event where his daughter wasn't welcome, and that frankly he was disappointed that she'd allowed Kevin to treat her own daughter that way. The wedding day arrived. It was a Saturday, the day before my birthday. I spent the day with my dad and my brothers, all 4 of us together at home watching movies and eating pizza, and honestly, it was nice. Sad, obviously, because I should have been celebrating with my mom. But there was also something liberating about realizing I didn't have to keep chasing the approval of someone who clearly didn't value my presence in her life. My brothers were at peace with their decision not to go. None of them expressed regret or doubt, and that made me feel less guilty about the whole situation, though part of me still wondered if somehow I'd caused all this. If there was some way I could have handled things differently, so everything wouldn't have exploded like this. My dad kept repeating to me that none of this was my fault, that I'd only reacted to an impossible situation my mom had created. Like a week after the wedding, I got a message from a number I didn't recognize. It was a photo of my mom and Kevin at their wedding, both of them smiling on their perfect day, at their intimate ceremony without their eldest daughter, surrounded by who knows what other guests who were apparently more important than me. I don't know who sent me the photo. Maybe it was Kevin being petty. Maybe it was some relative who thought I'd want to see it. I don't know. I looked at it for like 30 seconds and then deleted it. I blocked that number too. I haven't talked to my mom since then. Months have passed. She's never contacted me to really apologize or to try to fix things in a meaningful way. Sometimes she sends me generic messages like happy holidays or things like that, but she never acknowledges what happened, never admits what she did was wrong. It's like she expects me to just forget everything and go back to acting like we're a happy family. My brothers still see my mom occasionally, but things are tense. Dylan goes less than before, and he always tells me that every time he's there, he feels like he's betraying me, though I tell him no, that he doesn't have to pick sides, that she's still his mom. Caleb is in the middle, as always, trying to maintain some kind of relationship with both sides, and I can see this whole situation hurts him. My youngest brother is still too young to fully understand everything, but I know eventually he's going to have questions about why I'm not there. My 18th birthday was weird. My dad tried to make it special. He made me a cake and gave me a nice gift. And some friends came to visit me. But there was this obvious absence, you know, of the person who's supposed to be most excited about my birthday. The person who literally brought me into the world. I spent part of the day thinking about how she was probably on some exotic beach on her honeymoon, not even thinking about me. And that hurt more than I expected. The hardest part of all this isn't even the wedding or my birthday. It's realizing my mom chose a man over me. Like, consciously, knowing it would hurt me, she decided that keeping Kevin happy was more important than having a relationship with her daughter. And I don't know how I'm supposed to process that, you know? How am I supposed to trust future relationships when the first woman who's supposed to love me unconditionally told me my existence was uncomfortable for her new partner? I've been thinking a lot about therapy lately. My dad suggested it might be helpful to talk to someone professional about all this, and I think he's right. There are days when I'm fine, like genuinely fine, and then there are days when I see other girls with their moms at the mall or somewhere, and I feel this stab in my chest I can't explain. It's not even that I miss my mom specifically, because honestly, I don't know if I ever really had the mom I needed. It's more like I miss the idea of having a mom, if that makes sense. What I do know is that I'm not going to chase a relationship with someone who makes me feel this way. I'm not going to beg my mom to love me or value me, because I already did that my whole life, and it clearly didn't work. At 18 years old, I'm having to accept that my mom is who she is, and that no matter how much I change or try to be the perfect daughter, she's not going to change the way she sees me. My brothers ask me sometimes if I'm ever going to forgive her, and honestly, I don't know what to answer. Does forgiveness mean forgetting what happened? Does it mean going back to having a relationship like nothing happened? Because I don't think I can do that. Maybe someday I can get to a point where it doesn't hurt so much, where I can think about her without feeling this mixture of sadness and anger, but forgiving in the sense of giving her another chance to hurt me. I don't know if I can do that. Last week, my dad asked me how I felt about everything, like genuinely wanting to know if I was processing things in a healthy way. I told him I felt lost, that I felt like I should be more devastated than I am, but that I also feel relieved somehow. Relieved not to have to keep trying to earn the affection of someone who clearly already decided I don't deserve it. He told me that was normal, that pain and relief can coexist, and that he's proud of me for setting boundaries and for not letting myself be treated that way. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I'd accepted the exclusion in silence, if I'd simply said I was fine and pretended I didn't care. Maybe my mom and I would still be talking. Maybe my brothers wouldn't be in the middle of all this drama. Maybe Kevin wouldn't hate me so much. But then I remember that the price of that false peace would have been my dignity, my self-esteem, my sense that I deserve to be treated with basic respect. And that price is too high. I don't know what's going to happen long term. I don't know if my mom is going to wake up one day and realize what she lost, how she destroyed our relationship for a man who probably won't be there in 10 years when things get hard. I don't know if we're ever going to have some kind of reconciliation or if this is just how things are going to be from now on. What I do know is that I can't control her decisions. I can only control mine. And I'm choosing to surround myself with people who value me, who love me for who I am, not despite who I am. My dad tells me all the time that I'm stronger than I think, that the fact that I'm handling all this without completely falling apart is proof of my strength. I don't always feel strong, honestly. Most of the time, I feel like an 8-year-old girl who just wants her mom to love her and doesn't understand why that's apparently too much to ask. But I guess strength isn't not feeling pain. It's moving forward despite the pain, and that's what I'm trying to do. Yesterday, I was helping Dylan with a school project, and he said something that made me cry. He said, "You know, Hannah, when I have kids someday, I'm going to remember all this and I'm going to make sure they never feel like you felt. I'm never going to choose another person over them." And that gave me some hope, you know? Like maybe all this pain serves some purpose. Maybe it breaks this cycle of mom choosing men over her children. Maybe my brothers will learn from this and be better parents someday. For now, I'm taking things one day at a time. Some days are easier than others. Some days I don't think about my mom at all and I feel normal, like any other 8-year-old girl getting ready for college and making plans for the future. Other days I see something that reminds me of her, and I have to lock myself in my room for a while until the wave of emotion passes. It's a process, I guess, and there's no right timeline for healing from something like this. The only thing I know for certain is that I deserve better. I deserve a mom who defends me, who values me, who loves me enough not to exclude me from important moments in her life because her boyfriend doesn't like my face. And if my mom can't be that person, then that's okay. I'm going to find that family. In other places. In my dad who has never failed me. In my brothers who stood by my side when it mattered. In the friends who became chosen family. I don't need my mom's approval to know I have value. And I'm finally starting to really believe that.